What's up everybody, Tiancam here with Quilting. Now in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful quilt behind me that looks way more complicated than what it is using Vegas strips. Let's get started. Now before we dive too far into this, what is a Vegas strip for all of our folks out there who don't know? Simply put, it is 6.5-inch strips by width of fabric. Think of it as like a jumbo jelly roll, which allows you to do bigger size blocks where you can see the fabric a little bit better and get these amazing color contrasts that you're seeing behind me just due to the natural size of these blocks. So I've got this Vegas strip in front of me here. I'm gonna pop it open and just show you guys some of these beautiful colors that you're seeing here. Got the blues, the purples, the pinks. Obviously this is more of a rainbow-ish kind of pack here. Now what's awesome about this particular pattern is that pretty much what we're going to do to one strip, we're going to do to all of the strips. So for sake of the video today, I'm going to pull out something nice and bright. Let's do this bright green right here. We haven't done green in a while. And obviously you can tell by the quilt behind me here is that your background color is going to matter. We can go with something generic, which is what we're going to do today, is use a white or a black or a gray. Or you can do something a little bit more pronounced, like this beautiful kind of mauve-y tone that you're seeing behind me. But let me go ahead and grab some white. Now the cutting instructions are super simple. I need 3.5 by 6.5-inch strips out of my white here. And out of my Vegas strip, I need a couple of 6.5-inch squares and some 2-inch squares. That's all the cutting that we need. 3.5 by 6.5 off my white here, and then 6.5-inch squares and some 2-inch squares out of my Vegas strip. So let's go ahead and cut that now. So I need 5 6.5-inch squares first. So I'm gonna open it up, that way I'm not cutting duplicates here. And I'm gonna get one more 6.5-inch square. I'm gonna need to get 8 2-inch squares here. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold this in half, that way I'm cutting these into strips. I'm gonna cut out 2-inch strips long ways here, and then I'm gonna subcut those down to be 2-inch square. I'm going to subcut them down to be 2-inch squares, so I'm going to just stack them on top of each other. So that's 3, 6, and 9 there. And so as far as waste goes on this product, pretty minimal there, which we love to see. So just a quick recap. I've got 8 2.5-inch squares, and I've got 5 6.5-inch squares. Pretty simple so far. Then off my white, I need 8 3.5 by 6.5-inch strips. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut those now. So I cut it 6.5 inches wide. I'm gonna subcut it down to be 3.5 inches. Super easy as far as the cutting instructions go. 3.5-inch by 6.5-inch white strips, 6.5-inch squares, and some 2-inch little squares there. So now it's time to snowball off the edges to these 6.5 by 3.5-inch strips. But something that we need to keep in mind here is that we have orientation here. Okay, there's lefts and rights going on here. And we have to make sure that they're all, we need to have 50% of them being lefts and 50% of them being right, so that we can make up this little point here. Super simple to do though. So all I'm going to do is first I'm going to mark a line on the back of each of my 2-inch squares. Nothing too, I mean, they don't have to be perfect, just a good reference point. Now that I've got these all marked, this is what I'm going to do. It's super simple to make sure that we are doing this correctly. I'm going to lay down my 2 pieces, which are eventually going to be sewn together. And then I'm going to make the shape that I want, a little diamond here, or half diamond, with my pieces. So I'm going to put one going this way and one going that way. You can see I've made myself a little almost flying geese there, if you're looking at it. All I have to do now is sew directly across that penciled line there on both of them. Now I'm going to do this to all of my little strip sets here, to eventually end up with 4 blocks, as you can see here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now what I'm going to want to do is trim 1/4 inch away from the seam, and I love using rulers for this. I'm going to do that to both sides here. And when I open this up, it's going to make a little teeny point there once they're made together. I'm going to go ahead and iron these, and then we'll sew one up, that way you can see. So I went ahead and ironed them. I'm going to put them right sides together and sew all the way down. And now I want to make sure I get a really nice point on this, so make sure you're lining things up. And as you can see here, super simple, not too complex there. So I just snowballed off these couple edges here and then sewed it together, which then, once it's sewn, should equal 6.5 inches, which will match my block size, which is what we need today. So I'm gonna go ahead and make 3 more of these up, and then we'll be right back. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew these blocks all together now. That way we can finish up our big block. I'm going to go ahead and iron these real quick, and then it'll be time to assemble our quilt block. Now at this point, you should have our 6.5 inch squares, our 6.5 inch squares with our snowballed edge essentially here. So now at this point, all that's left to do is assemble our quilt block, which is gonna be super simple. It's essentially a 9 patch. So I'm gonna drop a square in the middle, and then I'm going to make pretty much the number 5 that you see on a dice on all corners, like so, super simple. And then I'm gonna put down my white where the green part touches our center square all the way around. And like so. Super simple, right? I'm going to attach my rows together and then attach this whole block together. So let's start off with the bottom row, right sides together, and let's start sewing. Let's speed this thing up a little bit. So guys, we went ahead and sewed our rows up. Now it's just time to sew the whole thing together. Biggest thing is we're gonna try to make sure that our points line up with the center square, because it's really the only real points in this, right? You have the points of our little star here, then you have our outside points there. As long as those line up, we should be just fine. So I'm gonna put these right sides together. So we just went ahead and sewed on our last row here. I'm gonna get ironed out and then give you guys the final presentation. And guys, just like that, our quilt block is done. Super easy, right? It looks way more complex than what it actually is. It's simply a couple of snowball edges and a 9 patch sewn together. But I love quilts like this that give us this dynamic look, in addition to it being so simple. And just look at the quilt behind me. Beautiful, beautiful quilt here. And guys, if you've liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't be afraid to share it with your friends. As always, just as a free, just for coming here today, down in the description below, there's a free PDF download or pattern for this quilt top. That way you can go ahead and print this off at home and then save it for a later date. Also guys, while you're down there checking out the pattern, you might as well check out SoyaQuilting.com, where you can pick yourself up some beautiful Vegas strips. And with that guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.